Hello and welcome to the Hugh Talks series for Novaera and National Geographic Learning. I read yesterday that 73% of all the news stories currently on the internet are at least 28% fake, and I can't decide if I believe it or not. Who knows? Maybe that news was itself completely made up. It's at times like this that the ability to think critically and to subject the information we encounter to rigorous analysis becomes crucial. And it's critical thinking in the ELT classroom that we're going to be talking about today. Fake news has been grabbing headlines all over the world, and the need to do something to counter the presence of fake news used as a weapon of cultural warfare, spread via social media and designed to create divisions and tensions in society, is one of the main reasons why critical thinking's become such a buzzword of late. However, critical thinking has far greater value than just allowing us to see through bogus news stories. Critical thinking skills are also increasingly valuable in the jobs market, where the ability to analyse information objectively and make reasoned judgments is crucial in almost all areas of work. However, what it means to think critically will vary from discipline to discipline. And critical thinking for, let's say, engineering graduates is going to be qualitatively different from the kind of critical thinking that can be developed and practiced in an English language class. We as teachers need to think critically about what kind of approach to critical thinking we can best facilitate. And perhaps the best start we could make is to remember Michael Swan's immortal maxim that first and foremost, language teachers teach language. So, the question is, what kind of approach to critical thinking works best in an English language class? What skills can we equip students with to help them think more critically? And what little tricks can we use to aid and assist us in this pursuit? Well, firstly, we can think about what we do when we think critically. Perhaps we highlight prejudices and stereotyping and show different degrees of open-mindedness. Maybe we highlight biases and distortions, or we analyse research, while at other times we describe vested interests and so on. Clarifying the improvements in thinking that we want from our students helps us focus on the necessary language they'll need to do this. From the above mentioned list, this may mean phrases like, just because it doesn't mean. Contrary to popular belief, statistics actually show that the data is fundamentally flawed, and so on. There's a time and a place for explanations and fill-the-gap exercises in course books, but in the end, these aren't what really lead to skills development. Instead, it's practice and repetition. We don't get good at explaining bias in newspaper articles by doing it once. We get better by reading different articles over time and learning to see the different shades of bias that each contains. A key way in which we can develop critical thinking is through the use of questions that move beyond the limited yes-no responses of closed display questions. Asking for personal responses, asking why, asking what if, asking how might you, and then crucially, not expecting one fixed answer, but allowing for a multiplicity of responses is central to developing a classroom culture in which critical perspectives can develop. Some of the most useful tools we can take into the critical classroom are texts. In traditional classrooms, texts have long been used simply as vehicles for language and as an opportunity to check students' comprehension through a series of questions that have fixed answers. That's all very well, but it's missing the point. Texts also offer us further opportunities to encourage divergence and critical thinking. They can be used to elicit personal responses, comments, questions, and so much more. Questions can also help to encourage critical thinking about language itself By asking more open questions about the language we're looking at, we allow more space for students and the possibility of more interesting avenues to explore. This means embracing open-ended questions such as, what else do people follow? And what might happen if you don't obey a rule? And then seeing where this takes us in the classroom. To maximise the possibility of this wide range of questions having an impact on your students, slow down. Rather than accepting the first answer you're offered, wait a few more seconds than you're used to waiting, or tell the class you're not taking answers for 10 seconds or until 10 hands have been raised. This buying of precious time allows slightly more space for the shy but thoughtful, for the dreamers, the innovators to find their own voices. Finally, a little trick you can deploy to focus on the positive in not so positive situations is the turnaround thinking strategy. If a student forgets to bring their homework to school, you can ask, what good can come of this? The student can answer with ideas like, I'll change my routine before I go to bed. And a potentially awkward situation is transformed into a quick critical thinking exercise. And that's all from me. By the way, I should add that everything I've said so far has been opinions, not facts. And of course, I speak with my own vested interests. But as critical viewers, you already knew that, right? If you need some help to provoke your students to think critically, we've got something extra for you coming right up.